Hi, this is Dr. Ben Morrill. Welcome to episode 95 of Reptile Genetics Weekly. Very glad to have you here, and we're live this time. We haven't done this for quite a while, and we've got the Instagram hooked up as well, so we should be on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, I believe. So yeah, we'll have got quite a few people coming in on Instagram. We'll go through and say hi to people here in a minute. It looks like Instagram's lagging a little bit, so that'll make it a little interesting, but yeah, awesome. Let's see. So for a update, like we usually do at the beginning of an episode, we do have fast test results going out tonight. I would usually have it analyzed by now into Sean, but any of you waiting for results for today, I'm the reason why it's late. So Sean will probably send those out first thing in the morning. But other than being delayed a little bit because of all the work for this live show, the rest of the week should be pretty normal. Sex determination results going out a couple times a week, the fast test going out every day. And for those of you that have panels in, those will be ready to go probably mid to late next week. That also kind of got pushed back 2 or 3 days because of all of the stuff we're doing for this. There's been a lot of stuff, a lot of work going. It's been a lot of fun, and it's good to have something that you're excited about and is something that can help other people and makes it a lot of fun to work on. So it's been good. Not much sleep, but a lot of fun. So let's see. I think that's really all I have. Kayla, how are you doing?
Hey, Ben. I brought some friends today.
Yes.
But and also, hi, chat. Good to see you guys. Let's see. I think I'm getting messages from everybody now. I see Facebook and YouTube. If you're able to comment on, oh no, it doesn't let me post to Instagram. Okay, so then if you want to glance over.
Yeah. So
yes. Okay, good.
Instagram, let's see, we got Jaffe Exotic, South Bay Serpents, it says, and 6 others. So I guess some of them I'm not going to know. Scruffy Looking Nerd Herpers, love that name.
What was it?
Clouds.
Looking Nerd Herpers?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's probably a good 60 to 70% of the chat right now. So yeah.
Yeah. Tall City Balls, Dragonheart Exotics. Let's see, we got lots on here. Texas Ball Exotics. Justin Moore Boa, TRM, Game of Odds, Split Rock Reptiles.
I know these people.
Yeah.
Awesome.
He's one of the main reasons I need to go to a Texas show. I need to meet you in person, Jim.
Yeah.
Las Vegas, Ball Pythons. Let's see, I think it's kind of showing me ones, or maybe people are getting back on. But anyway, Painted Scales, Reptiles. Yeah, lots and lots on Instagram.
Yeah, awesome.
And I can't see the other ones very well, so you'll have to bring up the ones that you can see.
Yeah, I gotcha. Lots of awesome folks that we recognize. Some we've even had on the show, like the Herp and Harbins. So cool.
Good.
Here, let me get our actually, Sean, what's your nickname now? Shed Librarian. That's a lot less feral than your normal ones.
Always a little bit interesting. Now that we're not sending everything to Ben, we're actually storing the research sheds. In my lab, we have bookshelves full of boxes of sheds.
Yes.
So I call it the Shed Librarian because we find ourselves digging through them more and more for pulling research sheds and rerun.
Cool. All right. So yeah, where do we want to start? We have a lot of really cool stuff. Like, I don't know, Ben, you I do the social media. Y'all pick something. Where do we go?
Well, we definitely need to let people know what new tests we have. So we have a lot of different things we'll talk about. But the main thing I think people want to know is what are the new tests that are available now. So, and Sean, they are available on both Clutch and Morph Market as of right now, right?
Yes, they are. They are.
All right.
Yep. Sean is the one that makes sure that part of it gets linked up. So sometimes I'm behind the times on that. So yeah, we've got, so we've been working on the spider complex. We were able to find blackhead and hidden genuoma. So we do now have 10 tests that are part of the spider complex. And there's another 1 or 2 that we're working on that may be in that complex also, but those are really the 10 main ones. And then GCR and MJ Xanthic, we did finally get that. That's one we've been working on forever. There are, I think, 3 different breeders that I know of that have done MJ Axanthic to GCR Axanthic breedings, and they got Axanthics, and then now this test that is identical in MJ and GCR animals and hets and stuff like that. Just kind of further tells us that. So this list has both new tests that are available now, and it has ones that we're close on. So don't get confused by this list. But we do have the hidden gene woma and the blackhead, and then the MJ and GCR Xanthic. Huffman is another one. So that's moving to the 8-ball complex. We do have Huffman. And the reason why Jolt is listed there, that's one that we have really good data on. And well, we have little data on, but it does look like it is identical to Huffman. But that's not something we can say for sure yet. So that won't get changed to Huffman/Jolt on Clutch and Morph Market until we know for sure. So any of you that have Jolt animals, please send us those. And that way we can see. I think we've only run a couple. So it's not something we know for sure. But so far, the ones we ran are identical to Huffman.
That's exciting.
And then Raven is in the same boat. We've only had a few samples for Raven come in, but the ones that we have been identical to Chocolate. And so that's another one. We just need more sheds to come in, and then we'll be able to let you all know. RK Asphalt, it's another mutation that causes an asphalt look. And we are still looking for more sheds on that to be able to narrow that down. Furrow is another one we're close on. That's likely in the spider complex, but we're working on that one. It is close.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm getting just a tiny bit of feedback. Is Instagram, are you able to mute Instagram? Or like mute your microphone on that? Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, that would be good. Did that help?
Yeah, I think that's good now.
Did that do it?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. Sorry
Instagram,
about that.
start yelling if things go wrong.
Yeah, let us know how that's sounding.
Yeah. But yeah, as you were saying.
Okay. Yeah, lots of people on Instagram.
Good. Hi.
Yes, lots and lots. So let's see. NOCO Special is one we do have a test for. So that's a new one that you can now purchase that test. And then so those are the ball python ones. And then we do, for the first time, have another species. So now when we give you new morph tests, we'll have to tell you what species it's for. This time we've got some corn snake morph tests, and we have some friends. Yes. So this is the one. Kayla's got some friends to bring on.
Yes, I do.
Kayla made us do it.
And I can hear some sound. Let me see if I can figure out how to make it quiet.
Okay. Or if you like lower the volume on Instagram. But while Ben does that, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guests today. That being Clint and Zac of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio fame.
Hello.
Hi, y'all.
Hey, guys. So if you aren't familiar with them, you should be. They're amazing. Do you guys want to talk about what y'all do?
Yeah, Zac, you want to?
All right, cool. So Clint and I are the co-hosts of Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. We were just a podcast this time last year, and then Clint asked me, can we take this to another level? And I said, sure. And now, we have an LLC for Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. We have a nonprofit for Colubrid and Colubroid Radio. We did a little thing called Colubrid Fest in Indianapolis in September, where we added an educational component, community building element, and then had a reptile show all in one weekend. And we are beyond happy and proud to be supported by RGI.
Yeah. We're happy to say we sponsored the very first Colubrid Fest. Ben and I went. It was a blast. And a lot of the sheds that that helped us develop these very first Colubrid tests are ones that we got at Colubrid Fest. So it
Awesome.
was awesome.
And some of them were shed during Colubrid Fest.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was running around and like I'd like see, you know, a little baby corn snake like shedding in the cup, and I'd be like, hey, could I get that? Not the snake, the shed. And they'd be like, yeah, okay, here.
It's a very fresh sample.
Exactly.
Some of the bags we ended up having, because people don't usually take sandwich bags to Colubrid, you know, to a reptile show. So the various bags and folded into envelope type thing and paper towels, various things, but it worked.
Worked great.
Awesome.
Yeah, we were so stoked whenever we first started talking with you guys over here at RGI, because we sat back and we watched what RGI has been able to do with the ball python market and really clean so much of that up and make projects that individuals are working on save years. Just kind of save years off their timelines. And so when we first started talking and hearing that you're going to begin working on Colubrid morphs, and it's, oh, wow. I mean, because it's like, that's going to save me so much time. I mean, and it's going to answer so many questions. I mean, there's so many things out there that, really we need to be able to determine, is it this, is it that, or is it just given a trade name, when it's really the same thing. So we're stoked. We're excited. And I mean, after you talk a little bit about what you've rolled out, I mean, I'll share with why I think it's so awesome that that's where you're starting. So
so going back to that first list, our very first corn snake tests are terrazzo, albino or amelanistic, and scaleless.
So there's one more actually.
Yeah,
it's not listed on Morph Market yet, and Morph Market is the place you're going to be able to find these tests. Because obviously Clutch is ball python focused. We actually have lavender corn as well. It's just not on the site yet. For whatever reason, they're having an error adding that one, and they can't quite figure out why. But they promised me in a day or two it'll be online. So it's technically 4 corn snake mutations that we can test for now.
Yep. So on Morph Market, it's just go to their normal page. I have it pulled up here. Click genetic testing, and you see some of the other stuff we're going to talk about today with ball pythons. And then there, under other single morph tests, you have your corn snakes. And as we add more species, it'll add in there.
For those who are not familiar with us, with Zac and I, because obviously we're heavy Colubrid guys, and most of the listeners for RGI are going to be in that ball python realm. Well, I will say it's funny because when we first had our first sit-down conversation with the guys here at RGI, it was obvious that we had a Ben and we had a Sean. Everybody clicked right away, but it was obvious who was who and whose minds weren't the same. Where you had Zac and Ben off to the side, nerding out. You had Sean and I over here all in the numbers and breaking all that down.
Yeah.
It's so cool. So so you have an idea on how our dynamic works. I'll say, as far as the corn snakes and starting there, it excites me so much from a market standpoint.
Yeah.
And I say that because over the last year, we've watched the ball python market has lost about its market share. Okay. So
about how much? It cut out for just a second. Like it just cut out the number.
3 points. So 3 percentage points. Yeah. I lost about 3.1.
Okay.
And while Colubrids gained 5.1 points of the market in just last year alone. And what's cool is within that 5.1 growth of just looking at Colubrids, corn snakes over the course of a year, because it really will shift with the breeding season, but corn snakes make up about 26 to 33% of the Colubrid market. So you're talking, a quarter to a third of it. And I think that jumping into that one with these morph tests are really going to help a lot of us that do work with corn snakes, because I will say, as someone with experience in hatching out a bunch of, combo corns, it can be so difficult to know what the hell you're looking at. Yeah. Right. I mean, you know, you hatch these corns out and it's like, yeah, it can have any of these 6 genes or combination of them. And so many of them look alike when they're hatchlings that, I mean, this right here, having the ability to start sending these off and having those answers right away, it's really, really exciting.
Hey, Clint, business person to business person, let me ask you a question. Why do you think the colubrids are up to 5.1 or 2% that you said versus?
Well, I'll tell you, I think a big part of it is going to be because you have such a variety that goes into that bucket that there's something for everyone, to be honest with you. You know, whether you want a big beefy snake that is slow moving, whether you want something tiny, whether you want something bright, whether you want something dim, you want something that eats birds, you want something that eats rodents, lizards, whatever, you're going to have everything across the board with that. But I will also tell you one of the driving factors, because the 2 biggest segments within the colubrid market are corn snakes and hognose snakes. You know, corn snakes have been the staple for so long, and you've got, I think it's somewhere like 40 or 40-ish single gene morphs in corn snakes. So you have so much that can be done there. And hognose are, and I think I've said this on the show, they are in that early ball python stage. And what I mean by that is there's a whole plethora of genetic morphs in hognose, and the combos are just still breaking the ice, that it's like that early ball python market where there's still so much that can be done, that's an exciting one. And I mean, hognose, they really mirror ball pythons in so many ways. They don't get big, they're heavy bodied, they're easy to take care of. You know, the turned up snout, everybody loves it. They're adorable.
Oh yeah.
You know, so they really fit that mold on kind of everything that made ball pythons so popular. Hognose fill that realm too. So when you have those 2 powerhouses that really kind of corner the colubrid market, but then you have, so like Zach, how many species of colubrids are there roughly out there?
2,500 plus.
Yeah. So I mean, you can find everything that you want, you know, within that realm. And I think that's why it's really moving in that direction so heavy.
Yeah. I think it's funny that, like, taxonomically, colubrids have historically been kind of like a wastebasket taxa.
Oh.
And that's actually been kind of an advantage, at least in the case of like with Colubrid Fest and being able to have like a big old community around that. But which is less related to the popularity of hogs and corns. But I completely agree. That's really cool. Yeah.
It's been fun giving that community a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't realize how loud that voice could be. So, but now we just kind of gave everybody a platform to stand on. And then where you go with that, you know, sky's the limit. So that's one of the things that's really interesting and fun about Colubrid Fest specifically, and to a certain extent, CCR, our podcast, is that I've had so many people reach out to me and basically say, like, this was a missing element of herpetoculture, and now, you know, it feels like we have a home, which pretty flipping cool. So watching it grow over the past 3 years, it's been real interesting. And I am not a business person. I'm an ecologist, and I understand resource demand and population growth. And every time that Clint starts talking about the market, I'm just like, okay, well, what represents the apples here? And who's eating the apples? And then what population's growing? Because that's the only way that I can understand this stuff, put it in my nerd language. But
relatable.
Yeah. But no, it's been super fun, and having RGI, you know, along for the ride the past year has been simply wonderful.
Yeah.
It's been fun. This year, I'm going to Colubrid Fest.
Yeah.
Everyone's welcome.
Sweet. As for tests coming soon, of course, we do have lavender that as soon as the coding is ready, it'll be on Morph Market too. And there's one more species that we're wanting to make sure you guys know about.
Very cool.
Yep. So we were able to find piebald in bloods, just kind of finalizing that test. But it's a very, very good chance that we've got that locked down. So
Yay.
we're excited about that. And there's, piebald and other python species we'll be looking at, and then maybe it'll even cross over into some of the colubrid stuff. We'll see. we at least know where to look for that. So yeah, that will also help us branch into other python species as we get obviously the working ball pythons will help, and then as we start to get some in bloods and berms and retics, and we'll understand where these mutations are in those species too. And so when but the corns are our opening as far as colubrids go. That's kind of the same thing. We're getting some corn snake ones, and hopefully that will help us know where to look for others here pretty quick in other species of colubrids.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. So Zac and Clint, I know that you guys have to go. I think you said you're going to go make some stuff for your Patreon.
Yeah.
So not to boot you off, but I know that you guys are on a time limit. I don't want to
All good.
make you guys run over.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much for having us, guys, and thank you so much for all that you're doing for the hobby as well as for what you're doing for us. We appreciate you, and we love watching everything that you put out. So keep it up.
Likewise.
And we will come on for every colubrid announcement you want.
Yeah.
And I'll come over to your show and talk about it.
Yep.
There.
Love it.
Definitely.
Awesome.
All righty.
All right.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Thank you.
All right. So as far as actually here, let me make sure I got my stuff here.
Bye.
Oh, okay. Bye, Zach.
Bye-bye.
There we go.
And then there were three.
So as far as ball pythons go, so what sort of sheds are you still looking for, Ben? Well, we have folks here and they're thinking about sending in sheds for more research so we can send even more stuff out to people.
Yeah. So definitely the ones on the top, Stranger, Nyala, Mahogany, we're definitely still looking for sheds from them. As far as the 8-ball complex, Cinnamon we're good on, Huffman we're good on. Could use more razors. So what we can see so far of razor is it may also be the same as Huffman and Jolt.
Ooh.
But that's kind of the same situation as Jolt. We don't have enough sheds. So we definitely need some more sheds. And Balls and Strikes, he says we need redheads. So yeah, send in your redhead sheds. We only have a small few redheads, so we could definitely use lots more of those. Daddy, we definitely don't have very many Het Daddy sheds. RK Asphalt, we definitely need more. And I know Antoine was on here earlier, and a couple other people have actually talked about RK Aesthetic Selection Reptiles was saying they're glad to see RK Asphalt. It was small enough percentage of the population that when they did the scientific publication, they didn't have any that were testing negative that were obviously asphalts. So it didn't seem that any of the RK line made it into that original publication, but it does seem very clear that there is another line, the RK asphalt line, and any of the testing services around the world we're using the same information from the publication, the scientific publication. So we cannot test for RK asphalt line yet. And it does look, as far as what I've seen and heard, looks very, very similar to the normal asphalt. Hard to tell apart. So that test is coming. But if you have RK asphalt or know people that do, we can use more sheds for that. TCR special, I think it's likely it will also be the same as NOCO. So we would have two different lines of special. But I have more of that data coming in the next week. So that's another one. We'll have NOCO as a test for now, and then we may be able to change it to NOCO/TCR here before too long. Or maybe we'll find out there are 3 different lines of special. That Sean and I talk about that a lot. That's happened way more over the last 2 years we've been working on this. We found out there's a lot more going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, we were talking just this morning. It's like when we started a little over 2 years ago, we were really shooting to get to 50 tests in year one. And really, we're kind of at the end of year two, and we're just now getting to 50. And a lot of reason for that is we're hobbyists, man. We're like you guys. We had no idea that so many of these mutations were, multiple mutations of the same gene that do the same thing. So it's doubled and in some case tripled our work. Like Special's looking like it's probably 3 now. So it's, maybe Black Pastel as well. So every time we take a step forward, we kind of have to take 2 steps sideways before we can take another step forward. It's been tedious, but well worth it. We're learning so much, and everybody that's interested in it like we are is totally geeked out about it, because it's just, who knew? None of us knew any of this just a few years ago. So it's wicked cool. I love it.
Yeah.
So Geek says RK asphalt's more reactive and visually different than normal asphalt. I haven't heard someone say that. I'd love to see some pictures. You have to post some pictures and tag us, or send it to one of our Instagram or Facebook or something. I'd like to see that. It's like Barnhart BP and BP. So yeah, I'd love to see it. See some more RK asphalt combos. I haven't seen very much, and I would love even more to get more sheds.
Yes.
Well, and that's one of those weird ones too, right, Ben? It's like, where do we draw the line between like have 2 compatible mutations of the same gene that do the same thing? So for us, it's just a single test. It's 2 that we run, but for the customer base, right, it's just a single test. But then you look at Black Pastel and Barnhart. Barnhart's its own distinct line, and is, you can argue it's a little bit different. So for us, it's actually 2 separate tests, right? Is RK going to be the same thing, do you think? I'm kind of leaning towards yes, because RK asphalt seems to have its own specific amount of work that's been done on it, that it probably deserves its own test.
Yeah, it does seem so. As like people are saying, a couple people, I guess it was Geeked and Leviathan, are saying that the asphalt RK line asphalt freeways look more like super asphalts. That's pretty interesting. So
Ooh, that's cool.
So yeah, it's a little different. What I can say is it's not a mutation right by the normal asphalt. That was obviously the first place we looked, is just really close to it. So we're having to look around in that gene. It's I'm sure going to be in that same gene, but doesn't seem to be right next to the normal asphalt. So Antoine, I know you definitely struggled with that, getting negative tests for ones you thought for sure, or seemed to for sure be asphalt. I think you had 2 different ones. That's massive bad luck. So hopefully we'll have that online here before too long. That's coming soon.
Yeah. And I threw this up on the screen just for those of you who are sending sheds. Definitely, like, you don't have to send the entire shed. It's not too big of a deal if you do, but just make sure it's completely dry. But a single patch, like in that picture, is just like, that's like 60 samples for us. So send the species, the ID name, known morphs, possible morphs. It can be a morph combo. It doesn't have to be just a single one. And any lineage info or who produced it. All of that is useful to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Tracy was asking, has there been any more progress with Black Axanthic and TSK? So we do have seen, lots more confirmation they are the same mutation. As far as being able to figure out the dark phase for them, that's a more complicated project. It's kind of like the high OD project. We've gathered sheds and we've been working on sequencing those, and the same thing with the dark phase. It's going to be tricky because we already know the main mutation for OD, high OD, and then for Black Axanthic TSK versus the dark phase of those. We know that the base mutation to make it axanthic or to make it OD is the same, but it's likely there's another mutation fairly close by that in high ODs amps it up, or in the dark phase different than the normal. I guess when we weren't specifically selecting for dark phase, that kind of faded out because you have to grow up all the babies and find out which ones go super dark to then breed them together. So that's, it takes a lot of time to be able to breed for that. So anyway, that the dark phase is something that we're working on. But it's going to take a while. That's a more complicated project.
Oh, that was the shed size thing.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
we don't need the whole shed.
No,
Especially
it's okay.
from an adult.
It's okay. Honestly, yeah, small patches are awesome. Less for you to package, easier for us to store. But honestly, as long as it's not like that bull snake shed that was the full shed and it was moldy and green because it wasn't dry. Like I didn't even open it, otherwise it would have been like a in my face, and we don't need that. So
yeah, and with monsoon, so a few people have asked about monsoon. Not surprising. We know that's going to be very helpful to lots of people. So the test that we have now, like we've talked about on here, we're working with people in the US and Europe and Canada. We're all teaming together on monsoon and sharing data and sending each other sheds if we're going to do more sequencing or whatever. So I was talking on the phone today to Charlie and been in email stuff with other people as well. So we're working on it. None of us have it yet, but the best thing we do have is we've run over 200, but we've had 3 that were incorrect, and 2 of them were visually for sure not monsoons, but they tested homozygous for monsoon. So the test clearly is incorrect sometimes, and it's a little over. We want to be over 99% correct, and this is below 99. So, but any of you that have some, especially if you have a few offspring or whatever, you're interested in doing some testing. If it's something you're going to keep yourself, you're not going to sell it or advertise it one way or the other. We have a very good test, but it's not good enough to sell. But you can send us an email and let us know you're interested in doing some monsoons. raregeninc@gmail.com, and we can do that. But like I said, this is not one that's available as a validated test. It's not one that you can list your animal as being, if it does test on the current test as being het monsoon. You can't be saying that in your ad, because we know that this test is incorrect more often than we're comfortable with. So we can give you something that if it's for your holdbacks, your own well-being, or if you go into it, you decide to breed that male a bunch, just know that it's a very good test, but it's not up to the standard that we have. So that's why it's not available for sale anywhere. And we will, when we send you the results, we'll probably tell you again, remember, this is not a validated test.
yes.
So we want to make sure that people are very clear about that, and definitely not offer it, through our vendors yet.
98% is not good enough. It has to be 99% or above before we'll put it on a vendor.
Yeah, because most of the time when it's 99 or above, we've run hundreds, or like in Clown and Pied and stuff like that, we've run thousands and thousands, and so the chance that something's going to come up and be incorrect is like less than 1 in 1,000 versus 1 in 100. But if we know it's wrong 3 times out of 200, then that's enough that it's going to cause a problem for somebody. So we don't want to touch that.
Fair enough.
But we are still working on it, still doing more sequencing, finding more hits. Those of you that watched last week's episode where we talked some about that, we're generating more possible locations. And so hopefully it won't be too much longer, but we've been thinking that for like a year and a half. So
yeah,
we'll see.
For sure. The process is kind of brutal. So if you haven't seen our last episode, so episode 94, you'll see why it can be such a laborious process, and what Ben's seeing on his end. So, and plus it's interesting if you like to nerd out with that. So, yeah.
And we've had a couple of questions on Instagram about confusion, acid, static. So we have lots of acids, and we do have an acid test that works. We have some confusions and very little static. So any of you that have static, definitely send them in and we'll see what we can see. So far for confusion, we're getting very close. We don't have a test that's over 99% yet for confusion. But so far, when I run animals that people tell me are confusion for our current acid test, they're negative. And when I run acids for the best test we have, confusion, they're always negative. So it still looks very clear that they are different mutations. So obviously they look very similar, but it is not identical, and it will require 2 different tests. So even though they look similar, they are 2 different things. Kind of like, we tend to see there's sometimes 2 different things that look the same and have 2 different mutations. Sometimes there's 2 different things that, maybe like Phantom and Mystic, where we thought, this seems to be a little bit different, but in the end, and Lesser and Butter, but in the end, the mutation was the same. And so we don't ever know until we do enough sequencing and testing. But yeah, with confusion and acid, it'll be 2 different tests. It is 2 different mutations, even though they do look really similar. That's just how it goes. I guess another good example are the axanthics. If you look at VPI versus TSK versus MJ/GCR, there's quite a bit of overlap. They look fairly similar, but they are not only not the same mutation, but they're not even in the same gene. They're 3 completely different genes on 3 completely different chromosomes. So this stuff can be complicated sometimes.
Hey, just to chime in real quick, Geeked has been lamenting about Monsoon, and he's been waiting for a couple years. And if you haven't seen it, Geek, and anybody else here who hasn't seen our video, this last time around, we went through the process of what it takes to design a test, and we used Monsoon a couple times in there as a really frustrating example of when we also are banging our heads against the wall, because we get to where we think we're almost there, and then we discover that we're not, and we have to go all the way back to step 1 and start over. And it's a very expensive, time-consuming process. And the last video we did, if you guys want to check it out, Ben does a really good job, and Kayla, of explaining that entire process. And and Travis was on there too, I think, on that video. Yep. So 2 PhDs kind of lay it out.
Yeah. Oh, Sean Fro. There he is.
I've been wanting that test for a long time too. However, it's probably at this point the most frustrating test we've been working on.
I think so.
Yeah, so Leviathan, I think someone else asked this earlier as well.
Yes.
So we do not have the furrow figured out, finished yet. So we're still working on that. Thankfully, you were one that sent me some furrow sheds. We got some furrow sheds. Yeah, so Tommy, she's saying that, sorry, so furrow was on the new tests list. So that list, those are new tests that either are available now or are very close. So there's 6 that are available now, and then the others we're close. So furrow is one of the ones we're close on, but it's not actually on our vendors lists yet. So
I want to take the blame for that. Before Ben got on, Kayla and I were working on some lists. One was supposed to be new tests, and the next one was supposed to be coming really soon because we were really close. We think we've got it. And they somehow got combined. And so when it popped up on the list, I was like, oh no, yeah, we don't have that many new tests available in ball pythons just yet. So for the record, we have 6 new ball python tests, right? You want to break those down really quick? I've got them here if you don't have them off the top of your head. Ben.
Yeah, if you've got the list, go ahead. Then I don't have to hem and haw.
Okay, so we've got GCR MJ Xanthic, Huffman, Cinnamon. We've got the NOCO line of special now. What am I missing? Blackhead and Hidden Genoma. Those are for sure fast test ready to go, except for Cinnamon. Cinnamon is ready to go, but I don't have reagents in my lab yet to fast test that. But my guess is that by the time someone places an order and the sheds actually make it to me, I'll probably have reagents for that too. The other stuff on the list: Confusion, Jolt, TCR Special, Raven, RK Asphalt, Furrow. Those are tests that we're really close on. But it could be that we get to the very end, like with Monsoon, and we think we've got it, and then right to step 1. Yeah. But so far, we have what appear to be really good hits, and initial testing that seems to be working, but it hasn't been through validation yet. We have to validate it. Once we get 100+ tests that work well to that 99% or better, then those will be released as well. We only are talking about them now because we're pretty sure we're going to get a decent amount of those. We've been working on them a while. We're pretty sure we're close. Like Ben was talking about with confusion and acid, we can already tell that it's different. We have a pretty good idea of where it is, but we're just not quite there yet. but the thinking is sometime in the next 2 to 6 weeks, they'll probably get dropped as well. Maybe not all of them, but the majority of them. Sorry about the confusion. That was my bad. Kayla and I were working on it, and then the Colubrid Radio guys jumped in, and we kind of put that to the side, and we never finished it. And
my brain like scrambled while they were trying to explain that. So yeah, no, it's all good. Between the two of us, Sean and I have one whole brain. Just, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
yeah.
And as for Mahogany, Mahogany and Stranger and Nyala, all three of those are ones we're actively collecting sheds for. I do not have a good, definitely not a ready test and not a good test yet for any of those three. But those are three we definitely can use, especially have a super of any of those three. Those sheds are especially helpful to nail those down. Yeah, Mahogany will be a good one. That'll be helpful for a lot of people.
We're 41 minutes in and we're answering a bunch of questions, but we still have a lot of stuff to talk about. Do you want to keep ticking down the list here?
Sure.
Okay. So the next thing we wanted to talk about is pricing. I don't know if you want me to go over that, Ben, or if you want us to go over some of it, or
yeah, you've put more prep time and thought into that than me. So
okay.
And
so
I also sorry to interrupt. I also have what's on Morph Market and Clutch ready if you want me to pull that up for visuals as well.
Put that up. So I mean, the story starts a couple of years ago, right? We started selling single gene testing. We only had 6, and it was $65. And over time, we promised as we get more volume, the price should come down. And last year we brought the price down to 50. And then, yay, we're at that volume number now. We have enough tests and enough people sending us quantities that we're able to do another price drop. So now, single gene testing is $40 instead of $50.
Let's go.
Gene, and that carries over, by the way, to our new corn snake tests and anything else. So the more volume we get, even across species, helps me run these cheaper as a cost basis. And that's the secret with genetic testing. And there's a few people in the chat that understand this. The more volume you push, it's a numbers game. The bigger the number, the cheaper you can run the tests, right? So we've been trying to get to bigger numbers, and we're finally hitting those numbers where we can bring the price down. And we're not done. 40 is where, and we have 50 today. If a year from now we have 100 or 200 or whatever, the price is going to continue to come down until we get to kind of a magic number for everybody. So yay for continued prices. We promised we would do that. And so the continued price lowering is happened again. So we're at 40 now. Second gene is still 25. Third gene is 15. And every other gene after that is actually 15. We bumped that back up from 10 because really very few people get more than 3 genes anyway. And the additional for $10 each, people were just throwing stuff against the wall. And honestly, it was an awful lot of work for very little results for anybody. So it's now $15 for every additional gene from the third one forward. Also, I do have a little bad news, but good news at the same time. So the panel price has gone up. I'm sorry, but it's $9. We had to do that because we added 15 genes. So now the panel, instead of being 30 genes, is now 45 genes. Now, if I could explain to you the amount of work that actually is, it would probably shock you, but it's well worth doing. Those are by far my favorite tests to run because every once in a while, people will send us a panel and they get surprises that are just really fun. And I as a hobbyist, I still do most of the updates personally, and I really like to do panels the most because when they pop out with surprises they weren't expecting, I almost always call them. And I'm like, hey, guess what?
Yeah.
Guess what? Does this seem like it could make sense? And a lot of times they'll look back in the history of that animal and like, you know what? You're right. There was some, whatever gene, GHI way back or whatever. So it's a lot of fun. And so we debated pricing back and forth, $140, $150, which I think would still be a good value. But you know what? We still make a little money at $139. I didn't want to go up a lot on price. So for a $9 bump, we've added 15 genes, another 50%. So
that's nice.
So we basically have 50 ball python tests available for sale, and 45 of them are now on the panel. So yay for progress. And again, this is a volume thing. The more of these that we get, the more of these larger panels we can run, the cheaper we can run them. So it's all starting to come together, guys. We promised you 2 years ago that that we would do this, and it's really starting to come together. The volume is there. I should say that I'm kind of full-time, part-time. Kayla's part-time. Ben's full-time. We have a lab technician, Allie. She's full-time, but now we've brought on another lab technician because we're getting so busy. So now we have 5 employees now at RGI to help us. And we're technically in slow season right now, but what that really means is just that, a lot of the single sort of, I bought an animal on Morph Market or Clutch and I want to get a single gene tested. A lot of those orders have slowed down, but the breeder orders, the bulk orders, those are still happening. And because you guys are right now people are starting to hatch babies out in large numbers, and we're starting to see that again. So, okay, so that's actually a pretty good question. So Raven asked if we're going to do a recessive panel anytime soon. I mean, at this point, doing the 45 Morph panel, you're going to get almost all the recessives anyway. But yes, we do want to do that. The challenge with creating those types of panels, though, is it's a chemical cocktail that we have to create every time we do a panel, right? I do a large panel like that. So let's say I have 25 or 30 recessive genes and I want to add 3 more. If I add 3 more, I can screw up 5 that were already in that chemical cocktail, right? So it's really hard for us to continue to redesign and retest that. I explain it to people like, if you're going to make a margarita, here's the 4 ingredients to make a margarita. Now I'm going to give you 30 ingredients. I want you to make the same drink, and it has to taste exactly the same and has to have the exact same alcohol content. But instead of 4 base ingredients, it's got 30. That's kind of what it's like. The more stuff we add to it, the more complicated it gets. So yes, I want to do a recessive panel, but it makes more sense from a planning standpoint for us to just increase the size of the overall panel first, and it just includes most of the recessives. At that point, I would do 1 or 2 additional recessives for you for free, just because it's easier. If you buy the full panel at 45 genes and there's 2 recessives that we don't have on the full panel yet, just let me know and I'll take care of you. I mean, that's really kind of how we operate here. We want to provide you guys with the best value that we can without overcomplicating, the work on the research side. And that's, I try to conserve Ben's time because he's the most valuable asset on our team. And the more of these changes I ask him to make, the more time he takes away from finding new stuff. I don't want to keep tweaking the old stuff at the expense of finding new things. So anyway, it's a good question. My direction has basically been, let's just make the panel bigger first, because that's the easier answer than lots of smaller panels. That said, next point of business, we do have a new panel. So the spider panel has now been added. I think it's priced at $100. Again, good news and bad news with this one. So the spider panel, the spider complex panel, right? Really cool. Now, if you're not 100% sure what's going on in there, we can run all this stuff. If we find any of the other spider complex genes, there was 1 or 2 that we're still kind of kicking around, right, Ben?
Yes.
We'll add those, and we probably won't change the price at all. But the spider complex is going to have to go the route of the panel as far as time. I can't do that one as a fast test. It's too expensive. So when we run a panel, we take 1 sample and use that chemical cocktail to give us all of the results. But that requires sequencing, which means we have to send it off to $1 million machine to have that process run. The single gene stuff, the stuff that my lab does, the fast test lab, has a higher cost, but we can turn the tests around in 1 or 2 days. The problem with the bigger panels is it costs me too much per sample, because I have to pull 1 piece of shed for every single gene. So when you ask me to do a 45 gene panel from your quarter size shed, I'm going to use that entire shed and maybe still not have enough material to finish out that panel if I do it 1 at a time, right? So that's the reason that the bigger panels, as they get larger like that, the spider complex in particular may get 1 or 2 more added to it. That's going to be a 3 to 5 week wait, like the standard panels, just because it's such a large grouping of genes. It just makes more sense to sequence it. The bad side of that is it takes longer. So
makes sense. But all of the other mini morph panels here will still be fast tests.
Yeah. The other stuff from a cost standpoint, I can make sense of just running it. When someone gets a blue-eyed Lucy complex right now, I pull 6 samples and run 6 fast tests and update all 6 genes. if we add 2 more genes to that, it may have to go the way of the other sequenced panels because it's just gotten large. And we may actually find some. I know honey's on there. Are there any others that we're missing from the blue-eyed Lucy that you can think of, Ben?
Daddy, the daddy, het daddy, and mocha.
Oh yeah.
Then those we definitely can use more honey, daddy, and mocha sheds.
Okay. Enough. So I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, so as of today, this has not been implemented. However, I did a lot of research into this to make sure I wasn't going to get in a lot of trouble because I've been audited before as a business owner, and that's no fun. But starting sometime in the next week or two, it's taken the vendors a little bit longer. I think Clutch may already be finished with this part, but I know Morph Market's not. No more sales tax unless you're in the state of Texas. So right now it's a 6%, 6.25% sales tax when you buy a test. Unless you're in Texas, that's going to go away. So convinced, yes. Besides the price drop, we're also dropping sales tax. So you're looking at about a 25% or 26% really if you drop the sales tax price drop across the board for pretty much everything. So thank you. We can only do that because of you guys and the volume.
Yes. And when we had the 25% discounts in the past, it seemed like that helped a lot of people. And what we were hoping as volume came in, like Sean was saying, volume is high enough and you all are sending enough sheds in for us to keep designing new things. That is what helped us get to where we can bring those prices down. And like Sean just said, and in many of the cases, you're going to get back right down to about where you were paying when you had that 25% discount, but that's where it starts. Then Sean, if they get 10 or 15 of something, they get an automatic price break through. Is it both Clutch and Morph Market? The automatic
market, you get a price break to 10 and 15% based on volume. But if you have a large number of sheds and you email me at Rare Gen Inc. and tell me you want like breeder bulk style pricing, I can usually beat it. And now what I've always done is I match what the pricing would have been on Morph Market or Clutch, and then I discount it from there. So, if you're talking about single gene tests across 100 animals, the discount's not going to be as significant as 100 animals with 3 genes each, because the average per animal at that point is already like $28 a gene or something. And then I do another 20% or 25%. So I've gotten people down as low as 18, 19, $20 a shed. And that was before I dropped prices. So it's very possible if you have large groups and you're a breeder for me to get some of these in between $20 and $25 relatively easily. So, but the numbers have got to be there. Single genes, it's harder to do that on, but multiple gene testing, it's a lot easier for me to do that. Okay, I think that's it for my business from the money side, right? Thank you everybody for all of your faith and the hard work from Ben in getting us to the tests that we have. 50 that you got, 4 now in corn snakes, many more, maybe talk about this a little bit later, to come in other python species. Now that we found albinism and pied and fire and some of these other mutations in ball pythons, and we have good locations on them, those locations should correspond to multiple other pythons, maybe even into boas and some of the colubrids. So a lot of these tests should start coming rapid fire now. And again, the bigger the breadth of tests that we offer, the more volume that we're going to process and the more prices continue to come down. And look, we just want to take care of the industry. We want to service the industry as best we can, as cheaply and inexpensively as we can. And the way to do that is develop as many tests as you can and sell as many as you can as quickly as you can. Again, for the 3rd or 4th time. Thank you all very much. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be here. But because of you guys, we're all here together. We're all learning a bunch. It's a lot of fun. And aside from some kind of side comments, I think that's it for me, guys.
Good stuff.
That question there's for you. So from Raven, she asked if you're getting 10 panels on 10 different animals, would it be cheaper? So through both Clutch and Morph Market, they'd automatically get 10% off, right? Yep.
So you automatically get 10% off through Morph Market, but then when you come to me with those, panel pricing starts. It used to be at $100. It would start at 100, and if you send me a bunch, it would come down a little bit from there. But now that it's 140 139. I don't know. I'd probably do it 105 or something. But again, 10 panels for me, that's a lot. That's a big order. So, you know, that's a $1,000 order just out of the gate by itself. Sorry, my dog's getting up underneath me here.
That's your puppy, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a
big old puppy.
That's Lita. She turned 8 months a couple days ago on the 1st. So yeah, she's a beast. But she's in here because we have some other dogs, and that one with the other ones is just a lot. So
that's fair.
I brought her in here to ease the pain on my wife a little bit, so she didn't have to manage the pack all by herself. But yeah, I already do discounts on panels. People send us panels in groups all the time. But you can also send a bunch of single and multi-gene sheds, but then also throw 3 or 4 panels in there. And because it's one big bulk order, you still get the cheaper panel price, and then I discount it from that point. So sending stuff to me is a really affordable way to do it. But the minimum I ask is there has to be a minimum of 25 tests, not including panels, a minimum of 25. Otherwise, I just can't discount it enough to make it worth your while. And it's just extra work for you and extra work for me. And it's probably not the best thing to do. So anyway, new tests and new, more aggressive pricing. And we're super happy to be able to offer that to you guys. So yeah. Any other questions I can answer for anybody from like the business side before we get to the fun stuff?
We did have multiple questions about sex determination for carpet pythons and green trees, and those of you that have watched the channel know the answer to this. So unfortunately, even though that was the main thing, ball python testing was kind of the green tree python sex determination was the thing that Sean and I originally wanted to make this business for, but it's unfortunately the sex chromosomes for the genus Morelia are different enough from all the other python species that it's been very difficult for us. And there's a couple other people that have tried too, and it's very difficult. So hopefully we can get it at some point, but it may be complicated enough that it won't really. It also may be that we can test for it, but it just won't be economically feasible. It might be like $300 a test or something. So
well we just don't know yet. And you know, to back up what Ben said, that was the original idea 14 years ago. We were literally working a table selling our carpet pythons together at Tinley 14 years ago. And I said, why can't we do a blood test for sex determination like you can take for any parrot? And Ben just said, you know, time and money, man, nobody's done the work. And that's literally when we started working on it. It was 14 years ago. And it's specifically because Ben's not as into carpet pythons anymore, but I still have lots and lots of more. I like green trees, but I don't have any right now. I've always loved carpet pythons, and I still have 24, 25 in my snake room. I used to have like 300. So I was that guy. And that's really for me how it all started. So yeah, I want a Morelia sex determination test as well, because they are notoriously difficult to sex, not just green trees, but even the carpets. You get a lot of kind of tweeners, right? That probe 8 or 9 scales deep. What do you call that? Do you call that a male or female? Because it's kind of right in the middle, right? So I would call it tweeners. Like, I don't know. I think it might be, but I'm kind of guessing. And I used to get really good at it, and even then I couldn't ever make a solid determination on some of them. So I'm with you. I really want to get that test too, because it's my number one. That's how we got started, and we still 2 years in haven't figured it out. So
it's been kind of one of the holy grails that aren't a ball python morph test. And Mike has a question for you as well, Sean. Could you include sex determination in the panel?
So the answer to that is yes, eventually. Here's why. When we get a python sex determination test that we can run via the sequencing, then yes. Right now, I have to run them on a different process that requires its own set of materials and its own separate hard cost. So if I were to add it to the panel right now, it adds a cost to the panel that is additional to what I'm already having to figure in. I know Ben's working on a way that we can do it a lot cheaper as a part of the regular panel. When we do that, then yeah, I'll add it to the panel. But until then, as long as I'm having to do it the slow, tedious way. It costs more lab time and it costs more in materials, and it's a $25 test. So there's not a lot of room to move on it already because it has a big cost on the front end. But we're working on a way to fix that. We're almost there. When we do, then yeah, I have no problem adding it to the panel. It's just not, it's not from a cost basis, it doesn't make sense yet, but it will. We're just not there yet.
And I'm also working on, as you all that have been watching the show know, each time we have, like now we've got 45 morphs in the panel, but we have 5 more new ones that aren't in the panel yet. And so to get those added, the brand new tests added into the panel always takes a little time. I'm working on a way to get those added to the panel faster, and then also to be able to get the turnaround time where it's 3 to 5 weeks now. As long as our volume continues to be where it's at or continue to grow, especially through the summer and hatchling time, we should be able to put some money into making the panels a little faster, maybe more like 2 to 4 weeks or 2 to 3 weeks instead of 3 to 5 weeks. But that's, a few months down the road, but we're working on that. And if we're able to do that, we'll likely be able to have sex determination be part of the panel also and be faster. That's another thing that, a lot of people that want sex determination, they're not excited about having to wait 3 to 5 weeks for that. So the way we do it now is very fast. It's usually 3 to 5 business days, something like that once we get it. And then it would change from 3 to 5 business days to 3 to 5 weeks, but hopefully we'll be able to cut that down by sometime in the summer or fall, where we can get those a little faster, be more like 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. But we'll see. We're working on it.
Hey, I need a couple minutes, guys, to excuse myself. I need to take Lita into the other room. She started to give me the giant dog warning. She's farting a lot, which means she's got.
Oh no! Outside.
Head on camera. So let me take her inside and put the dog out, and I'll be right back.
All good. That's okay, because we have some other questions that Ben can answer at least. So a few people have been asking about lace and where we're at with that.
Yes, so we've done some sequencing with lace. I have a bunch more out. I had multiple people, especially Canova, sent a whole bunch of white lace and lace. Mm-hmm. So very, very glad to have those come through. So we have a big batch of lace and white lace sequencing now. And so we will have more data in about a month. So, we'll, like those of you that watched last week's episode, so when that month is up, then we'll, nice, Troy. Blame it on the dog. We're getting lots of good fart comments now.
We are.
But yeah, so lace, white lace coming soon. Lots more sequencing going on literally as we're speaking right now.
Yep. That's awesome. And yes, we are live at Dragon Roller 4. Thanks for joining us tonight. Let's see. Paratrooper pythons. Is it close? So is lace close like monsoon where we can send them for invalidated tests?
Is which one like monsoon? Lace?
Lace, yeah.
No, not through us. No, we're not there yet. But we may be in about a month or maybe a little. I mean, it all depends on how lucky I might get the data, and it might be immediately obvious. But lace being one where a lot of people aren't totally sure whether they have a lace or not, or whether they have a white lace or a lace. It's going to likely be a little more complicated than, something like pied or clown that's really obvious whether you have a het or a homozygous animal. Lace will be kind of like paint. Paint's taken us a while. Paint's similar to, just a little more difficult. Tri-stripe, I know Tommy was asking about that from Inky Clouds earlier. Tri-stripe is in sequencing. We do have quite a few sheds coming in. And Tommy, I just remembered, if you're still listening, Tommy, whoever it was that was supposed to send a whole bunch of tri-stripe, I did get stuff from the PO box and I don't see it yet. So whoever that person was, I can't remember the name right now, but if you hear this, Tommy, you'll have to get after that person and say, get it in the mailbox. But we do have quite a bit of tri-stripe that has been sequenced, some more that's getting sequenced. So, you know, it may be that we get it in a month or two, or it may be one of these like monsoon where we have to keep trying. We'll see, but it is in the works.
Crying painted ties or tears over here.
Oh yeah.
It cracks me up.
Yeah.
So Kyle DeBlood on Instagram was asking, he says, I wonder if Monarch is going to test similar to Ultramel, just a different line. So I can tell you for sure it's not just a different line. So Monarch is definitely not on the same gene and not on the same chromosome as Ultramel. It's something different. So we will, and Monarch is in the same boat as some of the others, kind of like Paint and Confusion, where we have a good test, but it's not over 99% yet. It's more around the 90% range. It's not even as good as the monsoon test, where it's like 98. So we're getting there, but it's definitely, Monarch is definitely not in the same gene, would not be compatible with Ultramel. It's different.
Oh yeah, that would be an awesome one to send in, Tracy.
For those of you guys that might have just joined, I said this earlier, Ben, I don't know if you said it while I stepped out for a second, but I really highly encourage those of y'all that have questions like that to go check out our video from last week that goes through the process of how we develop tests. You'll see where and how we run into problems and what that causes us to do in the process, whether it's just a little bit of a back step or if it's all the way back to the beginning. You know, Monarch and Monsoon, and we've been through the fire, so to speak, with those multiple times, right? And the one that gets me the most, and I always come back to this, is that as hobbyists, Ben and I never really thought about how many of these mutations have secondary mutations of the same gene that do something very similar or identical, right? And that's one of those things that can throw us a curveball. If you've got 2% of a population of a particular mutation that's different than the one we can test for, that throws our test off just enough that we end up looking for that other 2% for a really long time, and getting samples for that 2% is hard to do. We basically have to test animals, figure out that our test isn't working for it, and those are potential research sheds for the future. So when it's a small percentage, what did you say, like yellow belly -17 is? It's like
it's definitely less than 1 in 100, and might even be less than 1 in 200. It's very rare.
Wow.
Right. And so when that happens, it really makes it hard for us to find the remaining portion of that problem. It makes it really hard to find that last 2%. Monsoon, we could be dealing with that. We don't know for sure, but that last 2% is really hard to sort out, because we need sheds to help us figure that last 2% out. But finding those sheds is very, very difficult. So again, I encourage everybody to go check out the video from last week, because it's really educational, and it can explain to everybody why this process can take as long as it does. So sorry. Oh,
you're good. And before we continue with ball python stuff, Heather asked if we need corn snake sheds. Yes. We basically, if the question starts with, do you need sheds for, the answer is probably yes.
Unless we already have a test for it. Other than that, yes.
Yeah.
We need
Yes. Corns, short-tailed and bloods, all of the above. So yes. All right. Earlier, Rhinos Royals actually asked about Monarch. Have we talked about that? Yes. Yet?
Just that it's not in the same gene or even the same chromosome as Ultramel. We do know it's different enough. It's not right by Ultramel. So the Monarch test is a good test, but not good enough. It's around, I think it's under 90%. So we have a good test. We have a good general location. The unfortunate thing is, in that area, there's several genes that could lead to an albino-ish look. So there's a lot of sequence that I have to look at that could possibly be the right thing. So we're doing even more deeper sequencing on Monarch. That's the kind of the same situation we're in with Monsoon. Those two have been thorns in our side for a long time, and I know they'll help a lot of people. So we keep working at it and keep hoping that we'll get there. But yeah, Monarch definitely different than Ultramel. It's definitely in a different location, different gene. We do have an okay test, but nowhere near where it needs to be, and we are still working on it.
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
So,
Dragon. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead with this one.
Yeah. Okay. So Dragon Ruler 4 was asking, have you got an update on the thing we may be able to help with that's not just sending sheds? I'm not sure what they're referring to, but I hope one of you guys will.
Yeah. So I think that the Dragon Ruler 4 put a message on our video last week, saying they're very interested in what we're working on and being able to help out. So, a big, really like what Kayla's got up on the screen here. And like you said, Dragon Ruler, that's the biggest thing you can do is send sheds in. There's definitely more and more things coming. I don't remember for sure what I was thinking, but I was hoping when you watch this live, this might give you some ideas of the other things we're working on now. And so feel free to message us, Dragon Ruler, and let us know if there's something we're working on now that you might be able to help out with.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Oh, this one's here we go. Raven asked a fun one, and no, it's okay. We do live, so you can actually so we can answer you. And this one's just a general genetics question. Do you know why banana speckles?
Nope, and it doesn't in some combos. Like if you have I think a lesser banana, you don't get the speckles, or at least not nearly as many. So it's not something that we understand very well. But in humans, there are some mutations that cause some little, speckles, freckles, kind of the normal freckles, maybe not so much, but, other random changes in coloration in the skin, in patches or dots. So it's likely something tied directly to the banana mutation, but it certainly could be another mutation close by that also does it. But it does seem to get masked by some other morphs, like I said, lesser, I think, is one of them that really seems to get rid of those spots. So yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I know that one time we were talking with Travis, I think after an episode, after we'd finished recording an episode, and I think Travis was talking about some things that could cause the banana speckling, but it's hard to say. We don't know yet.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I assume this is because we don't have a paint test yet. Yeah. We're working on it. Hopefully not too much more. I know it's
I saw when I came back.
What's that?
That was the first thing I saw when I came back. It made me chuckle. I thought it was a clever thing.
Yeah. Something else I start. Oh yeah, from Geeked. I wonder if that last % of monsoon is from moray animals.
It's not. So we have moray animals that test as expected with this test. The animal I've had one. Yeah, I've had one that I've done, and then some of the other researchers had the other two. But the one I did was a monsoon animal. That it was for sure not visual, but it tested homozygous for monsoon, and it was a monsoon line animal. So it doesn't seem to line up with moray. And like Sean was talking about earlier, if it's like the yellow belly -1, yellow belly -17 thing, that we may just need, instead of running a couple hundred, we might need to run 500 or 600 or 700, and eventually we'll be able to see, okay, here's 10 that all test incorrectly, and then maybe we'll be able to get some kind of information how those are related to each other or not, and kind of figure out if it's a secondary mutation or if it's something else weird going on. Hopefully we're almost there.
There's a good question from Jason.
Yep.
This popped over. This is the thing I'm most excited about now that we put into the ball python genome.
Yeah. And Jason asks, so what morphs like pied tend to show up in the same areas across multiple species?
Yeah.
That's a secret.
I can run with it. You're the doctor. I'm just excited about it from a business standpoint because we've done the work in ball pythons. So
yeah. So
You said
not
that's a
only
secret?
what's that?
Did you say that's a secret?
Oh, I said, yeah, right now that's a secret. We're still working on that. I can't tell you everything yet, but so not only would we expect it to be similar from ball pythons to other pythons, but when the researchers took the pied mutation that they found in ball pythons and put it into an anole lizard, they were able to get a similar. Same with albino. They took albino and put that into an anole lizard and got an albino anole. So these color and pattern mutations have been seen in zebrafish and with angelfish we were talking about. Sean used to breed angelfish. And then like mice and rats and various other animals where they've done a lot of genetic work. We do see similar things in our reptiles. And so far with ball pythons, a lot of those, not all of them, but a lot of them, when we're developing these tests, we go and we're like, oh, that gene, I know that gene causes like axanthic in zebrafish. And we get a hit in the same gene in our ball python. Like, okay, let's check that out. Like, oh yeah, that's what TSK or VPI, the VPI axanthic that they worked on in Canada. They had a hit pop up in a gene that was known to cause axanthic look in other species, and so that's why they really went after that hit, and it ended up working out. So yeah, we do expect a lot of the things that we're finding in ball pythons to carry over really well into other pythons, and then potentially into colubrids and venomous snakes and some others. So we're excited to play with as many of those as we can. We just have to make sure that Sean's good. I guess you're on that side. That Sean's good money wise. Yeah. He's the one that tells me, yeah, that's really cool and fun and exciting, but you can't work on that right now.
Well, like we said, if you looked at some of the lives from the past couple of years, my position has always been we're going to get somewhere between 50 and 60 ball python tests, and then I'm going to want to shift gears and start working on other things. We're pretty much there. We're not going to stop working on ball pythons, right? But there's so many mutations out there that are relatively rare that for us to spend a lot of time and effort to figure them out when there's really not that many out there, it makes more sense for us to service other parts of the hobby, right? And the easiest way for us to do that is to take what we've already learned with these common mutations and carry them over into burms, retics, bloods, corns, king snakes, all that stuff. We should be able to find relatively quickly a lot of these common mutations. And there's some really kind of interesting sidebar conversations I don't know we really want to have here, but because there's so many ball python mutations with a large enough sample group, you could start looking for some of these mutations that don't appear in, say, burms or retics, but they probably exist. It's just a matter of testing to find them, right?
Ooh.
We already know where they are in ball pythons, so we'd have a really good idea where to look for them in a different species. And so as a business person, my view of our business 5 years from now is not just looking for mutations that we know exist in ball pythons, but taking what we know exists in a ball python and finding it in another species where they haven't found it yet by chance, which is really how we've done so far.
That's
right?
so cool.
There's a lot of potential in the future for what we're doing, and it just all stems from doing the groundwork right now. So,
yeah. Yep, just like Geek is talking about here. Lav albino, same genetic mutation of albinism in rats, mice, humans. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. So lavender albino in ball pythons is the ACA2 gene, which is albinism in humans. And I do believe it's in rodents as well. But ACA2 is one of about 4 or 5 genes that if you look at albinos across any birds, reptiles, humans, rodents, whatever, there's really these 4 or 5 genes that most forms of albinism are going to be because of a mutation in one of those 4 or 5 genes. So that's why with the very first paper on ball pythons was piebald. The second one was albino, lavender albino, and ultramel, because what they did, that was Dr. Hannah Seidel and her students. They took those 4 or 5 genes they knew in other species seemed to be where the albinos were, and they sequenced those 4 or 5 genes, and then sequenced animals, ball pythons, for those 3 different types of albinism to be able to see where those are, and ended up that they were able to find all 3 of those within those genes that we already knew from other species. If there's a mutation there, it would likely cause some type of albino.
Too cool.
This is the stuff that keeps us up until 3 or 4 in the morning.
Yes.
It's fun stuff.
And I mean, if we're able to do that, those more popular tests can help us pay for going down these cool rabbit holes later. So
yes.
Let's see. Genetic fusion reptiles. Clint, he's gonna get some boa sheds to send in. Yes, please.
Awesome. And Forged Exotics on IG says, would sheds from Partho snakes be of any benefit to you? We actually are working. I've talked a couple of times with Dr. Warren Booth. He's worked on parthenogenesis in boas and pythons, and also with another researcher in venomous animals, wild venomous animals, some as well, I believe. So anyway, we are actually working, and Canova is helping as well, as they get some parthos. And then this year, you all that watch the channel know they got an androgenesis, a baby. It was a female that came with genetics just from the sire. And after talking with Dr. Booth, I wasn't aware that there's kind of 2 different ways you can do that. And one of them can give you either sex. So a way you can get an androgen is if you have an egg that doesn't have any DNA in it. So it's enucleated. It doesn't have a nucleus anymore. So that DNA is not there. And then 2 sperm happen to get in there. Then that's what makes up that genome, is actually 2 different contributions. So one could be an X and one could be a Y, or they could both be X's. So you could get males and females from androgenesis. So that was pretty cool to learn. But anyway, we're working along with Dr. Booth. And Canova sent some samples in, and I hope to. Dr. Booth is working on another paper right now, and when he's able to publish that, I hope to have him on. He's got some really cool stories. He's been working on this for at least 15 years. It might be even close to 20, and he's got some cool examples of animals he's worked with over the years and raised up, and to see how they turn out, whether they can breed or not, whether a partho animal produces other partho animals. It'll be really cool to hear some of those stories. So yeah, if you do have some that you think are partho, definitely feel free to send them in, just like any of the sheds for new tests. And if we can fit that into what we're doing for that partho project, or potential androgens, we would be happy to get those as well. And just let us know. I'll have lots of questions for you about the siren dam and the offspring, and how many eggs went bad, and lots of different things. But it is a fun topic that we are interested in, and looking to be part of a study and publication about androgenesis and parthenogenesis, and bring that to you all when we have a good answer, when we have that paper published. We'll get Dr. Booth hopefully on here to talk about all that.
Yeah. What's up, Sean?
Oh, hey, there's a bunch more pretty good questions. Before we go there, though, there's one thing we forgot to talk about.
Yeah. What's up?
Just real quick, business-wise. And unfortunately, I left them at work like a dummy. Ben, you might have them. 2024 customers, those of you that have sent a significant amount of sheds over the year that I can tell are breeders, we sent out some thank you packages that included some free testing cards. They're gift cards. You guys can use them yourself if you want. However, they're intended really to help you guys sell snakes when you're posting them on Morph Market, or eventually Clutch's Marketplace, or when you're at a show. If you've got a pos head animal that you couldn't quite get tested, I wanted to present you guys with these cards that you can use to give to your customers to maybe help you close that sale, right? Anything we can do to help you guys sell these animals that you're producing. So if you're one of those people that sent us a whole bunch of sheds, and you're an obvious breeder and maybe you didn't get an email from us, or not an email, but a letter from us, just shoot me an email and I'll kind of review the sales for 2024. I got like 2,000 of these cards printed and I've handed out about 1,500 of them. So that's 1,500 free single gene tests that we've offered to give away this year out of the 2,000. So I've got about 500 left. I don't have the card, Ben. Do you have any of yours anywhere near you?
I can run, go get it. It'll take me a minute.
Okay. It's just a little gift card. It looks kind of goofy. We have to send them in a bigger bag though, because we started sending them in like regular paper envelopes. And by the time they get to you guys, people are slicing the envelopes open and stealing the cards out because they think they're gift cards.
Oh, that was a weird.
Yeah. So some of them, if you did get an envelope from us and there was nothing in there, please give me a holler. I've already had 4 or 5 people contact me and say, hey, these cards that you supposedly sent me, they're not in here because the bag's cut open. And it's clearly theft. They're not tearing it. They're slicing the very end of the envelope open and sliding the cards out.
Really?
So if you're one of those people, hit me up. Just shoot me an email. I'll kind of review sales. And if I can send you some stuff as a thank you and help you guys move some snakes this year, I'd be happy to do it. So sorry. Hijack over.
Oh, no, it's okay.
Can you put that super sticker info up?
Yeah.
So I think that's our very first one. Thank you, Tom.
I think so, yeah.
843. Yeah, that's the first RGI super sticker.
Yay.
We appreciate it. That's very kind of you.
I didn't even know we did that. So that's really neat. Thank you.
We never have before.
Send me an email at raregeninc.com and I'll send you some goodies for being the first one.
Yes.
Raregeninc at Gmail. My bad. Sorry.
It's okay.
Do you want me to take a minute to run, go grab a card?
If folks want to see it, it's got our logo on the front and some instructions on the back. It's very simple, single gene card. It's just a thank you, help you guys sell some animals. I mean, you guys are our customers, but the vast majority of you are breeding these so that you can resell the offspring. And if we can help you guys close a sale at a show or online by offering a free test to help a potential buyer feel good about it, then we're happy to do that. It's not about a number of sales. How do I say that? Hit on my boy.
Hitomi boy.
Hitomi boy. Okay.
Yeah.
See, there you go. My age is showing.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's more dollar volume. Like if I can tell that you're a breeder, right, and you've bred a whole bunch of snakes and you're trying to sell a whole bunch of snakes, we really tried to hook those guys up. But again, pretty much any customer that's placed a reasonable number of orders, it's got to be in 2024. Anybody from 2023, we appreciate it, but I'm sticking to the previous year's customers and or sponsors. Hit me up, send me your email. I can look up exactly what you've done and make an educated guess. But I have 500-ish cards left that I'd like to get rid of in the next couple of weeks. And after that, they're gone. So you guys tell me and I'm probably not going to tell you no. But I'm not going to send you 30 cards either unless you've done a significant amount of business with us. But yeah, I mean, I don't know the math on that, but 2,000 cards at $40 a test, that's a lot of free stuff that we sent out this year.
Yeah.
So,
that's cool.
Boy, Ben really must have left him in the car or something. He's been gone a long time.
I know. Come back, Ben.
Atomic Creations, you're legitimately, out of every live we've ever done, the first person that's ever done that. So
yeah,
reach out and I'll send you a bag of goodies for being the first one ever.
Oh, awesome. I hear him.
I'm trying to see if there's any other questions that I can answer while Ben's gone, but I don't see any. How many people are left? Can you see?
Oh, I see 46 viewers still.
Okay.
From YouTube and Facebook. I don't see any from Instagram because all Pituophis. I would love
Pituophis. As part of the Colubrid family, I don't know what mutations are there, but if we can carry it over from what we found in corns and from pythons, those should start falling by the wayside pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, I mean they've got the albino. I know they have albinos and bulls, gophers, and pines, and so they've at least got that. And on hog sheds, yes, please. But yeah, in the Pituophis, I'm so interested to see how white sides interact, because I know those are in a whole bunch of different colubrids, and also some vipers, weirdly enough. So I'm interested to see how that is. Oh, did you find it, Ben?
No, I thought I knew right where they were, but I don't see them, so I don't know where I set them. I had people asking questions about it in Instagram, so I'm answering real quick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so one of my other employees from my other business, she's the one who's been helping me with all the FedEx mailings. So when I get bombarded with emails tomorrow, she's going to be like, oh, and she's going to do a whole lot more. She's already done probably 150.
Oh.
I tried to get Allie to chime in because Allie and Haley are roommates, and so Haley's helping out in the lab now.
Yeah.
Like, you guys should chime in, and like we'll have you jump in, and we'll introduce everybody. And both of them were like, yeah, no, thank you. We're very, very busy as it is. When we get home, we don't want to talk about work anymore.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Oh, we got Allie for like one live stream, and she showed us her tortoise, and her tortoise peed on her, and then she had to leave. So,
Yeah.
But that was all we got. There was one question I'm trying to find.
Hey, Jason, I see your question. Elaborate. What do you mean flat rate, all-inclusive tests? What do you mean by that? As far as testing goes, all single gene pricing is the same, regardless of the species. But when you say all-inclusive, I don't know what you mean. Are you talking like when we run the panel test with ball pythons?
Or is he thinking, okay, species with limited known mutations? So like, I don't know, if we got gopher snakes, I don't know how expansive their morphs are, but you know, if you had, are you thinking like a species panel type of thing? Like for one species?
Oh yeah, Kenny pointed out he's got a picture of the gift card on his Instagram somewhere. If you guys know how to bring it up. I don't. I mean, I could bring it up on my phone, but that won't do any good.
Oh, yeah, I can go hunt it down.
I'm such a knucklehead. I meant to bring these home and I left them at the
It's okay.
And I thought I knew exactly where I set those, but I don't. And I'm actually working on that area, redoing some stuff. Yeah, I'll be able to show you all here before too long. But yeah, so things got moved around, so I don't know for sure. It would probably take me 20 minutes to find it, so I guess I better not do that.
Oh, and here's Jason's message. So there are like 15 to 20 retic morphs in the States. So he's asking for a flat rate, all-inclusive tests. So I guess like a retic panel is what he's asking about.
The problem with Ben and us working on panels for that many genes when we get there, the first step is going to be getting those mutations, and the easiest step in getting there right now is finding those common mutations. So I think what's going to happen first is we're going to find 3 to 5 mutations in a whole bunch of different species over the next year. You know, albinism, pied, fire, maybe lab albino. Can you think of any other stuff that's super common off the top of your head, Ben?
Yeah, like any of the genes that would potentially, or any of the morphs would potentially be like in the yellow belly complex, the spider complex, the fire complex. You know, we can look and see in other species. We have worked on the technology to be able to do that pretty fast. In other species now, we've been working on that behind the scenes quite a bit. So we'll be pretty efficient at that. So if we find out some of the other morphs and other species are in those same those same genes, there's a complex, there's a good chance retics will have genes in, morphs in those same genes that house the complex in ball pythons. Same with berms and bloods and all that. So yeah, that's what we'll be looking at, and hopefully we'll find a bunch. But we also might find retics have another gene that ball pythons, we don't know of any mutations, but maybe in retics there's 7 mutations there, and that's a bunch of retic. You know, that will take more work, but
that's going to take more time. That's what I was going to say too. Is the common stuff's going to fall like dominoes quicker, but then the mutations that exist in other species that we can't make correspond to a ball python mutation, those are the ones that are going to take a lot longer. That's why some of the ball python mutations take forever, because we have to find them out of 1.5 billion, possible locations. So yes, eventually we would probably do a flat rate panel for everything, but it's getting to everything that's going to take some time. And truthfully, to get that many in retics, you're looking at probably 3 years, I would guess, maybe more. Because some of the mutations, right, we could find pretty easily, like spider in ball pythons is the same as jaguar in retics. It's also, we suspect, because it's a color and pattern mutation that causes a fatal super and has neurological issues, right? So if it's not spider, it's one of the spider complex anyway. So it's right there. There's a similar gene, I think, in bloods. I don't know if it's called raven or blackbird or something like that. I'm not familiar. Maybe you guys can help me.
Magpies might be what you're thinking of.
Magpie?
That has a fatal super and causes neurological issues in the het version, and it's a pattern and color mutation at the same time. So I mean, there's some of those too that we could work on. But again, it's like, do we really want to work on that one right now when it's a fatal super? And I don't know. There's a lot of work to do, but the easy stuff is the stuff we're going to hit first, and the hard stuff is just going to take longer. That's the shortest answer.
And the biggest thing that you all can do is send in sheds, talk to people, get them to send in sheds, and then the tests that we have available that help you. If you buy those tests from us, that money gets turned right into developing more tests. So buying the tests we have and then sending in sheds, and then talking to people that have the animals that we don't have tests for yet. Those are the 3 things you can really do to help us out.
Yeah, as the guy who does the taxes every year, I can vouch for the fact that this company is not profitable. And it's not because we're not selling enough tests. We could stop selling tests tomorrow and do okay. It's that we are completely turning every bit of this money right back around into more research. I honestly believe we should be able to get somewhere between 200 and 250 tests into the reptile market before we can stop and just go, okay, that's enough. Everything else is such a small portion of the market. It becomes a hobby test and not a business test. We did it because it was fun, not because we think it's really going to be that useful to the hobby. So, but yeah, every penny, Ben is not lying. Every single penny goes right back out when it comes in.
Yeah, and from like a molecular biologist standpoint or geneticist, there's people that make a lot of money developing these kinds of tests. Like when COVID came out, there's people that have similar background to me that develop that test, get it going. When the test is going to be used for millions and millions of samples, within a year or possibly even within 2 or 3 or 4 months, the amount of money that you have coming in to develop new tests, to hire new people, to it's just completely different stratosphere.
Yeah, it's inconsequential. You're willing to spend the money.
Yeah, it's so that's been one of the most difficult parts of doing this business. Is it's something Sean and I both love, and we want to be able to provide service for this community. But there's a lot of stages where we have chicken or the egg kinds of situations where you, like the very beginning, I have to have a licensed business with an address to be able to have reagents shipped to me, but I have to have a business start and be able to start making some money to be able to have an address to ship stuff to. Is like chicken or the egg, and we just get that all the time, all these different steps, and that's really been the difficult thing. And it's what you all have helped us with is if we have we start out with a sex determination test and colubrids, and then we get a few more morph tests and a few more, and you all pay for those tests when they're helpful to you, and we can just turn that right around and design more. And if it was something the government was interested in, we could get a government grant, or if it was something that's gonna be a test for millions and millions of people, that's really easy to fund and make happen. But for the size of the reptile community, it's a little more difficult to make that work, and definitely couldn't do that without you all.
Yeah. Whenever you go to the federal government, ask for money for mutation testing in reptiles, the first thing they think of is berms in the Everglades.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the first
probably.
question they ask every time. So, hey, Jason had a good question too about sequencing the genomes of other species. So the best way for us to find new tests is to do that, but it's also the most expensive way. We're the first people to do a really high quality genome on ball pythons. That's why we've been, as successful as we've been in finding what we've been able to find. But that was also really expensive. We did a male and a female wild type. Getting the male and female wild type in other species can be difficult. It's not impossible. The good news is the pricing has come down. It's $7,000 to $10,000 now per animal, I think, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe a little cheaper now. When we first did it, what did we spend, Ben? 30 grand, 40 grand.
I mean, to do the whole project and the analysis and everything that was involved, it's probably closer to 50.
Yeah, and that was for ball python. So the actual sequence is cheaper now, but the labor is not any cheaper. And all of it's not just the sequence, right? It's also let's collect 300 sheds. Each of those sheds has 1 to 3 or 4 different mutations. Then we have to get a smaller sequencing done, right? We have to get a $35 or $40 sequencing run for each of those 300 sheds. And then we compare all that data to the normal to try and find where the discrepancies are, right? Again, check the last week's video. We go through all of this. It's very expensive and very time consuming. So yes, that's the best way to do it, but it's also the most expensive. That's why, from my standpoint, I'm really pushing Ben to try and find the common stuff and other mutations first, because it should be easy and we shouldn't have to spend that much money up front. And the more tests we can offer, the more tests we can sell, then we can pay for more sequencing and start finding the other random stuff that isn't coinciding with other species. And again, 5 years from now, the really cool part is going to be, once we've done a lot of this work, this mutation exists in corn snakes, but not in ball pythons. Why? Let's see if we can find it. And let's start testing for it randomly. Ben and I can technically test every shed that comes in for this random mutation that occurs in some other species. And when it shows up in 2 people's mutation, we could put the 2 of you together. So you should breed these animals together because you might create something new, right? Because we'll be able to see that. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking way ahead. I want to get to what Jason's talking about, but I want to get past that too. Now that I've got all this information, how can I patch it into these other species and help people find new stuff and grow the hobby? So that's the way my brain works. So
yes, that's fun stuff for the future. And once again, I've kept ball pythons mostly, but like we've talked about, kept carpet pythons, I've kept some colubrids, I've kept some geckos, and a lot of the time my friends I have that keep these other species are like, why are you doing so much in ball pythons? And I'm saying to them, well, if we make tests in ball pythons and then we can use that money to develop it in colubrids and then all these other things, that makes it so we can all win. Well, now you all that are into ball pythons, as we start coming out with corn snake and with boa and all this other stuff, what you can rest assured is some of the sales that come through for corn snake tests and other things will be for things like lace and for mandarin and for all these other things that we're still working on in ball pythons. If we have, so right now we have a few colubrid people that want to do sex determination, and then a bunch of ball python people that want to do sex determination and morphs. Well, what you all need to realize when we're talking about other species, if you're a ball python person, when we talk about morph tests in other species, then realize if we expand the amount of people that are purchasing tests to be a lot more colubrid people and some boa people and some berm people and retic people, then all of a sudden for us as a company, we're a little safer and we have more volume coming through. So that's more money that we can design more tests. So even if you're not keeping the species we're developing new tests for, know that it is actually going to help you for the species you keep, because that's more tests that we can develop.
The way the numbers are looking right now, if we can do about 35% more volume than we're doing now, which really isn't that much, that's why I want to pursue the easier genes first. We can hire another Dr. Ben.
Ooh.
Yeah.
We have another full-time PhD working on this full-time all the time.
Oh, that would be crazy cool.
Yeah, and we could get a whole heck of a lot more done.
Yeah.
I made a joke about this like a year and a half ago, but honestly, I'd like to get somebody who's relatively freshly out of school and would have a fresh perspective with all the newest technologies.
Ooh.
They were brushed up on in school, things that maybe Ben, no offense, but he's been out of school now for what?
Yeah, I'm old now. I graduated with my PhD in 2011. So
Right. So it's important for a growing business to continue to bring people in that have fresh perspectives and skill sets, newer technologies. We're about 30 to 35% away from that. If I can get to the number that I'm thinking about, I should be able to hire somebody for a reasonable amount of money that would be interested in doing this. So if any of you out there have a friend who's working on their PhD and is very interested in reptiles and maybe looking for a job in, say, a year, tell them to call me.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I want to generate revenue, and we do that the easiest and cheapest way by having as many tests as possible, as quickly as possible, so that I can hire more doctors, so that we can generate even more tests. That's the plan. That's what we've been doing. We started with 6 tests, guys, 6, and now we're at 50 for ball pythons, 4 for corns, and if we don't add another 25 or 30 this year in other species on top of some more ball python stuff, I would be super surprised. So we're kind of on a fast track now. The fact that we're doing the volume that we're doing has made it where we can lower the price, but still hit our research numbers, right? Where we can spend the money on the research. So just guys, keep doing what you're doing. Keep supporting us. We're not going to give up on ball pythons, but we do more work in ball pythons if we're selling more tests. And when I'm spending $10,000 to find 1 mutation or $10,000 to find 10 mutations, I'm going to do 10,000 to find 10 mutations all day, every day, and then we'll circle back around to the $10,000 one that's really hard to find. And that's a cheap number, by the way. We're probably 25 or 30 grand into monsoon at this point.
Probably.
Monarch's probably not far behind.
It would make me cry to look at those. I don't want to actually put that information together because I'll cry.
Right. That's why I don't ever do the weekly shows, but I do the lives so that people can understand from a business standpoint. Somebody has to look at it from 20,000 feet and go, look, I really want to find monsoon too. I'm a geek like the rest of you, but we're spending an awful lot of money on it and we're not getting anywhere. And we're down to the last 2%. So let's start splitting that cost with other researchers and figuring out how to work together, because we're spending way too much money.
Yeah. Fair enough. Geeked is wondering, are we going to do more lives more often in the off season? Do we have an off season properly anymore?
It's kind of like over the holidays and into January, and then February we start to pick up again. We're already starting to see the bigger breeder orders come through. A lot of our business is breeders, but a lot of it is not the people that are on this podcast. It's y'all's customers. It's the people that are buying your animals. They're getting stuff tested, 1 animal, 1 gene at a time. Those are the people that go away when it's cold, because they're not buying animals. They're not having them shipped to them because it's too cold to ship. So there's just less interest, right? But in the spring, when everybody starts going to the shows and buying that little danger noodle, and it's posset for this and posset for that, we get a lot of those people. That's why we did the gift cards, right? We want you to give those cards to those people. A, it helps you sell a snake, and B, it introduces them to our service and shows them that we can help them as they go through this adventure that we've all been through, right? So we do have a slower season, but I don't want to imply that we're not busy. We're busy. We get smashed in the spring and early summer. That's why we're training Haley now, because we know in the spring we're going to get crushed, and Allie can't do it all by herself anymore. It's too much.
And it kind of gives me a little bit more time. I spend a little less time analyzing and a little more time developing new stuff. So that's why, the last time we had an announcement, we had 10 new tests. This time we have an announcement, we have 10 new tests. Hopefully we can kind of keep that up, and every month or two have 10 more tests for y'all. But yeah, that does help in the summertime when we have, just completely crazy amounts of stuff coming through. It's a little harder to do as much research to develop new tests. But we still push them along during that time. It just, this December, January, I've been able to focus on it a little more.
Good stuff.
I feel like we've been at this for like 15 minutes and it's been an hour and 50 minutes now.
I know we're closing in on
Yeah.
the 2-hour
And I'm
mark.
tired. I'm not saying we should shut it off, but I'm running out of stuff to talk about unless people start asking more questions. So
Well, there's
Yeah.
there's been 3 or 4 people on Instagram that have just straight up said, "Thanks so much for the show. Good night." So
Yeah.
apparently people are starting to sign off. So
yeah, it's
Yeah.
getting late, guys. It's not late, but it's 8 o'clock for me. So
Yeah. Let's do one last question.
Okay.
Paratrooper Pythons is asking about the pixel gene.
I've gotten a handful of sheds in, not enough to be able to do anything yet. But yeah, there's been a few. So if you know someone that has pixel, definitely, or if you have some paratrooper, yeah, send more pixel in. I would love to run them. Hi-Fi Herp on Instagram asked this earlier, is asking again, is there genetic material in the albumin? If you could get a sample of just straight albumin, I would imagine the amount of DNA there would be fairly low. But what you can do, especially when the egg is close to hatching, there have been some people that have already done this where they just use a needle or a capillary and just get some blood from the vein. But what's very commonly done, Sean knows a lot more about this than me, but in birds, they'll very often just collect so once the egg hatches, just on the inside, what adheres to the inside of that's like a type of like a placental type of material. Obviously it's called something different in an egg, but it's a similar thing. It's a membrane, kind of like a placenta. And so you can kind of you let that dry, scrape some of that, and that usually will work well as a DNA sample also.
Yeah.
If you're able to go in with a needle and just get straight albumin, I would imagine you wouldn't get very much DNA, but there's a lot of other sources, any of the membranes, and especially the blood veins, you can get DNA from those.
yeah, the bird test back when you and I first started years ago was strictly blood. And you'd have to go to a vet and they would do a draw. Now they'll pluck a blood feather, or they'll take some of the material from the inside of the egg and can sex it using that. So, and those tests, just to kind of go back to what I was talking about earlier, those tests are anywhere between 15 and 20 bucks. And they're the exact same tests that we run in reptiles. The only difference is those guys do hundreds of thousands of tests a year, and that's why they're 15 bucks, because they do so many.
Yeah.
It's all about numbers. The more numbers we get, the cheaper it becomes across the board. From buying material standpoint to buying reagents to labor, we can develop systems that are so efficient that they just are unstoppable at that point, right? If you go out right now and search bird sexing, you'll find it anywhere from 15 to like 20, 25 bucks. They're really, really inexpensive. And it's as simple as plucking a feather, sticking it in an envelope in a bag, and mailing it in, just like your sheds. So.
Yeah. Okay, I know I said one last issue, but Dragon Rulers, I posted it up here. It was a question about duck billing in the 8-ball complex, and just in general looking for certain mutations, like it's problematic mutations that are comorbid with a morph.
Yeah, so specifically with the 8-ball mutations, that gene, which it's not published yet, so I won't go into detail. When it is published by us or whoever ends up publishing it first, then we'll be able to talk specifics and where in the gene and all that kind of stuff. But it is a common thing for that to have some kind of structural or developmental types of issues. There are many genes that affect color and pattern that also affect the development of the individual. And so that's the duckbill would be one of those where it gives it cool color or pattern, but it also affects like how the rest of the body forms. And sometimes that's detrimental or at least out of the ordinary.
Well, and it's usually problematic cross species too, right? Like the spider complex with the carpets and retics and ball pythons, jaguars and retics and jaguars and carpets are probably the same thing as spider or one of the spider complex genes. But isn't there another like mammal that has the same
Yeah,
defects.
mammals, chickens. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
there's some dogs.
Goes up in birds and mammals and pretty much does the same thing. It changes some pattern and some color, but it also gives them really serious neurological issues. So it's definitely all related.
I think Merle in dogs. That's
Yep,
another
that was
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So whether it's a lethal homozygous or it causes, the really common ones are smaller eyes or affects hearing or affects just overall neurological function. We see that across species.
White box issue with deafness. Yeah.
Deafness. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we do know from the studies that have been done on the spider morph and ball pythons, it does affect their ear, their inner ear, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds right. So interesting. All right.
That was a really good question. Sorry it took us so long to answer it.
And one other question from Instagram. Les Snow asks, is there a shed test that can test everything on a ball python? No, there's not, because we don't know where everything is yet. But the test we do have now, the new panel test does test 45 morphs, and they're kind of the more among the most common in ball pythons. So if you have a ball python, you want to know what all it has, that 45 morph test, there's nothing else better than that. And thankfully we're able to do it. If you think of it as a per test, you're getting 45 results for $139, and that's pretty sweet. That probably puts it in line, like if you wanted to see what breed your dog is or something like that. I think it's similar pricing. So it'll give you a really good idea. And if you wait another year, then we'll know even more.
Yeah. All right. Well,
it's almost 2 hours. We better cut it off for real.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. We're really glad that we were able to, sit down and chit chat with you guys live again. It's been a long time. But hopefully we'll do some more, especially if we're starting to, roll out a bunch of different new things and new species. So yeah, we really appreciate you guys. As always, please send sheds. For if it's something that we aren't currently testing for, we'll take sheds for it. And that's really how we're able to make this happen. We couldn't do it without you. So we're very, very grateful. Whether you're just now learning about us or if you've been someone who's been supporting us for years, since before we were more out there at all, or even doing morph testing. So
hey, one more thing real quick before we go. Ed, we forgot to bring this up, and I'm going to try and get it done before the 2-hour mark. 4 weeks or so, raregeneticsinc.com will have a new website up with lots of really cool stuff. A lot of things that we're talking about, published papers, stuff that we think is going on, things that would just be interesting for genetic nerds. It's all going to be on our website. We've been working on it pretty hard. Got an ETA of about 4 weeks before it's released. So right now, our current website is something that I made myself, and it's awful. The new one, a significant amount of time and money, and should be really cool for people to, as I think Dragon Rule said, you can go down some serious rabbit holes there. So
oh yeah, for sure. It's like you can read the papers that we go over in some of our episodes, but if you want to just like read that specifically, it'll be all in one place.
Read the papers, links to all of the genes that we've talked about in the past. Just
pictures,
case studies that we've had a chance to work on, all that stuff.
Frequently asked questions, specific information about every test that we have available, what the grade is, and how good of a test it is, and any notes about potential things that we're wondering about still or whatever, and which ones. So a lot of the time these lives are asking, what about this test? What about this test? What about this test?
Shout outs to people that have sent us large groups of sheds to help us find mutations.
Yes.
Throw your logo up there with a thumbs up. Thank you for helping us.
Yes.
Find this out. So
lots of good stuff.
Our way of saying thanks and geeking out with us.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go ahead and call that a wrap. Thank you guys, as always, for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
See ya.